It's time now for another Artistic Wandering with Mark Wilson. This is the time, if you're not driving and if you're not working and it's safe to do so, to fire up the social media. Go to the Koreascape page on Facebook because we are talking about art and we have put up a whole bunch of visuals that you can follow along with. We'll make it as radio-friendly as possible, but if you want to see the actual works that Mark is talking about, definitely go to the social media. Morning, Mark.
Good morning, Kurt.
So, we all know that you find the gems around town. What have you found this week?
Well, I was very fortunate because this found me. Eri Choi is a director and curator of Harang Gallery, and she contacted me through Koreascape. Yeah, it's awesome.
You're getting a rep, man.
I know. It was really great. I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
You're on the email list and all that stuff. So, Eri Che, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So now she is the curator of Harang Gallery. That's her gallery. But then they did a very special show at the Chosun Ilbo Gallery, and that's in between City Hall and Gwanghwamun Station. So that is a separate gallery, a very special show that they had. And this show is the Korea-U.S. International Contemporary Art Exhibition. That's a mouthful, but that's what it was.
Okay.
Yep.
So a little bit of an international vector.
Yeah, so Ms. Choi, she invited 10 American artists and 16 Korean artists, and she compiled and put together a bunch of work. And it was really in her background because she had a business background in marketing, so it was very natural for her to go ahead and reach out and find these American artists through social media and different things like that.
You kind of have to promote yourself heavily on social media these days if you're an artist, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what she did. She went out and she found them and she compiled this show together.
What's the common thread other than, U.S. and Korean? Is it a medium or is it a...
No, that's the thing. And I was very curious too. And this was the very first show of its kind through Harang Gallery. So it was essentially just bringing in a bunch of works.
A potpourri.
So when I went there, I think there was over 90 total works altogether in that huge Chosun Ilbo Gallery. And each artist was very different from each other. So it was fascinating because just the variety and the different styles and mediums that were used.
Who do you want to focus on?
Well, I was also very lucky when I went ahead and met Ms. Choi. I also met an artist, Mr. He, and he is a professor at a Chinese university branch in Korea. And I apologize for my pronunciation, but Yanbian, and that is the university branch in Korea. And his background originated in calligraphy. And he's been working in the field for over 55 years. He started when he was just 5. And one of his works was featured in this show. So we actually walked over and talked about it in this next clip.
Let's give it a listen.
주제는 생명의 꽃에서.
Well, first of all, this art piece symbolizes flowers of vitality and communication in this modern world. And as you can see, he wrote both Korean and English letters and these Korean traditional papers. And he put them in each piece. This circle represents the whole world. And every circle, he just put each paper in manual.
Yeah.
And he captures something in this nature and imprints its form on his soul and concentrating on illustrating the nature of things. If you see at first glance, it just shows, it's just a calligraphy. But if you view this art piece in depth, these characters transform into images with deeper meaning, which is a balance and diversity. And this one represents the world as itself. This is more like 3D. This one represents the men, and the other one represents women. So it shows how humans can live with diversity.
그대로 연결했다라고 이렇게 보면 되겠습니다.
We have a couple of shots of the piece that she was discussing in our album on our Koreascape Facebook page. It looks... what is it? How shall we describe it? It almost looks like vases lined up in a checkerboard pattern.
Yeah, that's right. And it almost, to me, from far away, it almost looks like a grid It's almost like a pattern, right? And it's just these blocks, but upon further inspection, you find out that these are individual pieces that are actually put on.
Right.
And then he covers it in the Korean traditional paper, the hanja. And he also uses calligraphy. And in some of the blocks, in every other block, some is in Korean, and then some is in English.
We had a chance to watch that hanji paper, the rice paper being made down there.
Oh, very cool.
Slow process, a laborious process to dip the square into this sort of glutinous water and slowly build up a layer of starch into the paper. Okay.
Yeah, and Mr. He, he's very adamant about pouring the soul into the work. So when he was like explaining his pieces, I mean, the interview I had was quite long. And man, when he was talking about pouring his soul and just where his mind was when conceptualizing and making these, it was just way above my head.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I don't get art at all, like the way he was describing it.
Yeah, I mean, part of the joy of art or writing or whatever is distilled thought and distilled experience, you know.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of these artworks where somebody just kind of splashes paint on the canvas and goes, voila, that's my feeling of the moment. It's distilled skill and talent and experience. And this person has clearly spent huge amount of time.
55 years.
Yeah.
55 years.
Inscribing each
That's
of these little things. It's a very visual thing. Where are we going next?
All right. So another artist I'd like to talk about, which was very interesting. I didn't get a chance to interview him, but I would love to hook up with him in a future Artistic Wanderings. But he is artist Park Byung-jun. And if we see some works here, if you check out on our social media, it's almost of a wooden house. There are a couple of them. One is with a yellow background. Another one is with a dark blue background. And it's surrounded, it has some soil on the bottom and a blue background right here. But the thing is, the mediums that he uses are the real mediums, like real wood and actual soil for the dirt in the picture. And then that blue background is denim.
And so in this depiction of a traditional, kind of dilapidated Korean house, it's a little bit three-dimensional. It sticks out of the canvas.
Right. And here's the most interesting thing. The artist, Mr. Park, is completely blind.
Whoa, there's a reveal.
Completely blind. And so he goes ahead and he uses these textures and he makes these pieces. And you'll find one of the pieces is quite dark and a lot of dark blues and tints and things like that. But then in the other piece, it's bright yellows. And the thing is, he lost his sight, I think less than 10 years ago, and he's a bit older. So relatively speaking, that's not a long time ago. So initially when he was making his works, they were changing because immediately after he lost his sight as an artist, he was going through some hard times.
Naturally.
And that really was put out through the work.
If you're an artist in a visual medium, what worse thing can happen than to lose your sight? But it creates a fascinating question about his process.
Yes.
His inner eye, his mind's eye,
Yes.
still has visual concepts very much at hand.
Exactly. And as his works progressed throughout the years, he started using brighter colors, and it's really changed his mind on his life and things like that. I would really love to sit down with him and
I really think that's
yeah.
that's somebody to focus in on as a character. In
Absolutely.
fact, I've got a friend who kind of covers blind issues and sight-deprived issues.
Okay.
That's somebody to zoom in on.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
if you are recreating the world that you used to see with tactile materials, that's a heck of a story. All right. Any other characters in this lineup? Or
Well, the thing is this. After I went ahead and I checked out around, close to 100 different works, I just remembered in the back of my mind meeting all these different artists throughout my artistic wandering segment. I met a lot of foreign artists, and a lot of them had pretty similar things to say about Korean art, that it was very trendy, that it followed trends, that it was a bit similar and things like that. And, I sat down, with Mr. He and Ms. Choi, who one is a professor, artist, another is Korean curator. I said, what's your take on this? What do you think when people say something like this? So, Ms. Choi, the curator, she almost felt that, maybe trends, that's not an entirely terrible thing. That the fact that the works are similar because it gives them something to drive on, something to focus on. And also she said, listen, if you think about other different artistic eras and genres, certain time periods, sure, you had a Michelangelo, but then you had 100 artists who would follow him and create similar works as him. So in that sense,
I mean, it's the difference between chaos and some semblance of order. Obviously, you're going to have trendsetters who are going to create a wake and create movements in art. Otherwise, it's a constant white noise, isn't it?
That's right. So also the artist, Mr. He, he also had something to say about trends as well, and we'll listen to that in this next clip.
Mr. He.
작가들은 늘 창조해.
The artists are usually very thirsty of creation. But then, since diversity is represented in the art world, the people are willing to utilize the trend of the art.
너무 똑같다라고 표현을 하는 경우가 있어요.
From the perspective of the viewers abroad, the artworks in Asia, or particularly in Korea, they look similar. But then the media the artists use or how they represent the theme, they're all unique and different. So he hopes the viewers abroad can try to see the artworks in details and take time and try to imagine the meaning. The understanding of the perspective of the viewers is very important, because the reason why the artists are trying to know and follow the trend is because they want to represent the artworks to the world, not just putting in the storage room. They just want the viewers to see the artworks and actually appreciate them. So I think following the trend is not a bad idea, but while the artists follow the trend, their own uniqueness and their own using method or media, they should remain unique.
표현을 자기 세계에 표현을 합니다.
So I also failed to mention that was actually the curator, Ms. Choi. She was translating for the artist. So
that makes sense.
That's a clip of both of them. So yeah, it's pretty interesting their mindset on the trends, and also it was very interesting to listen to Ms. Choi to hear about the relationship between artist and curator, and how she felt that a lot of Korean artists, because she did the show between Korean and with Americans, she felt a lot of Korean artists tend to overprice their works a little bit, and there's no rapport between her and the Korean artist. Whereas the American artists, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of rapport. They were really curious about, okay, how much do you think my work should be? What's the Korean won? And things like that. And she was a bit, she was really in depth. She's like, I wish a lot more artists would establish with me, because I'm essentially, frankly, the salesman.
More along the American model, almost like a record producer and a record artist, a
there
musical producer and a musical artist.
When the artist is not there and their work is for sale, if you're a full-time artist, you're selling your stuff.
Well, yeah.
When you're not there, she's the one representing you.
The producer is listening to the vocabulary of the market and what the people are kind of clamoring for in the art world.
Yes.
And can bring that into the pure artistic realm of the artist.
Yeah.
Maybe establish a little give and take there. This is where, just real quickly?
Well, this is at the Chosun Ilbo Gallery. Unfortunately, it is finished, so go ahead and check out on the social media. And she's going to have a show showing up in Basel, Switzerland. She's going to take a bunch of Korean artists to there.
Hop a flight. Get some fondue. Thank you very much for another Artistic Wanderings, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Kurt.
We get our global family when Koreascape returns.